Hello everyone, my name is Beatriz GASPAR and today I'm pleased to present our paper Understanding Visitor Perceptions in Multisensory Wine Tourism, a Sociodemographic Analysis in Portugal. This study explores how visitors perceive multisensory wine tourism experiences and whether these perceptions vary according to sociodemographic characteristics, namely gender, educational backgrounds, and residential environment. Wine is more than a drink. It is an ancient tradition, a cultural symbol, and an art form that has connected people across generations and regions for centuries. This cultural significance has contributed to the growth of wine tourism as a key form of experiential tourism. Today, visitors increasingly seek more authentic, immersive experiences that connect them with the wine culture, production process, and wine producing regions. As a result, wine tourism has become an important tool for destination differentiation and regional development. A key characteristic of wine tourism is its multisensory nature. Wine tourism engages visitors through sight, smell, taste, sound, and touch, combining vineyard landscapes, wine aromas, local gastronomy, environmental sounds, and tactile interactions during winery visits and harvest activities. These sensory stimuli can shape perceptions of authenticity, quality, and satisfaction, fostering stronger emotional connections and more memorable experiences in the end. Although sensory experiences have received increased attention in tourism research, wine tourism studies have primarily focused on visitor motivations, destination development, and economic impacts. Previous research also suggests that sociodemographic characteristics such as gender, educational background, and residential environment may influence how individuals can perceive sensory stimuli and evaluate tourism experiences. However, their influence on perception of multisensory wine tourism experiences remains underexplored, revealing an important gap in the literature. But do all visitors perceive these multisensory experiences in the same way? In terms of literature review, it is also important to say that Portugal provides a particularly relevant context for studying wine tourism due to its rich wine heritage and the diversity of its wine regions, characterized by different landscapes, grape varieties, and cultural identities. Wine is also a key element of Portuguese culture, closely linked to regional traditions and local identity. Consequently, wine tourism supports both the preservation of cultural heritage and the economic and social development of wine-producing regions, making Portugal an ideal setting for studying visitor perceptions of wine tourism experiences. In terms of literature review, it is also important to say that visitor satisfaction is a key determinant of tourism success, influencing loyalty, recommendations, and future behavior intentions. In wine tourism, satisfaction is also shaped not only by the wine quality, but also by sensory, emotional, cultural, and experiential factors. Previous studies show that visitors evaluate wine tourism experiences in terms of authenticity, emotional engagement, environmental atmosphere, and overall experiential value. Building on this background, this study examines whether sociodemographic characteristics influence perceptions of multisensory wine tourism experiences. To address the research question, a quantitative research design was adopted. Data were collected through a structured survey administered to individuals who had participated in at least one wine tourism activity during the previous year. The study explored whether perceptions of multisensory wine tourism experiences varied according to gender, educational background, and the residential environment. 4 dimensions were analyzed: multisensory wine attributes, multisensory experience attributes, sustainability attitudes, and overall visitor satisfaction. Based on the literature review, we developed 4 hypotheses. These hypotheses examined whether sociodemographic characteristics influence perceptions of multisensory wine attributes, multisensory experience attributes, sustainability attitudes, and overall visitor satisfaction. Together, they allow us to assess whether different visitor profiles evaluate wine tourism experiences differently. In terms of questionnaire design, the questionnaire included sociodemographic information and an evaluation of the wine tourism experiences, and 4 dimensions were assessed. Data were collected through a structured survey adapted from validated scales developed by Torabi. Participants were recruited through wineries, wine tourism events, tourism associations, university networks, and online wine tourism communities. And to be eligible, they had to have participated in at least one wine tourism activity during the previous year. All perceptual variables were measured using a 5-point Likert scale, and a pretest was conducted prior to data collection to ensure clarity and comprehensibility. In terms of the sample characteristics, it is important to say that the final sample comprised 342 valid respondents who had participated in at least one wine tourism activity during the previous year. The sample showed a balanced gender distribution and was mainly composed of individuals aged 25 to 54 years old. Participants were generally well educated, with most holding a bachelor's degree or higher, and nearly 3/4 were professionally active. Respondents were drawn from several Portuguese regions, particularly the Centre, North, and Lisbon and Tejo Valley regions, providing a broad representation of the national contest. In terms of statistical analysis, the distribution of the data was assessed using the Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. As the normality assumption was not met, non-parametric statistical techniques were employed. The Mann-Whitney-U test was used to compare two groups, while the Kruskal-Wallis test was applied to variables with the multiple categories. The reliability of the measurement scales was evaluated using the Cronbach's alpha, with all constructs demonstrating acceptable internal consistency. All statistical analyses were conducted using IBM SPSS Statistics version 29. In terms of results, as shown in Table 1, all constructs demonstrated acceptable levels of reliability. Although the Cronbach's alpha value for multisensory wine attributes was slightly below the conventional threshold, it remained acceptable for exploratory research. The Kolmogorov-Smirnov test indicated that the variables did not follow a normal distribution. Consequently, non-parametric statistical techniques were used in the subsequent analysis. Table 2 presents the results of the Mann-Whitney-U test for gender and residential environment. Gender emerged as a significant differentiating factor across all 4 dimensions analyzed, with male respondents consistently reporting higher evaluations of multisensory wine attributes, multisensory experience attributes, sustainability attitudes, and visitor satisfaction. In contrast, the residential environment showed only a limited influence, with a significant difference observed solely for multisensory wine attributes at the 10% significance level. In terms of Table 3 presents the results of the Kruskal-Wallis test for educational background. The findings reveal significant differences across educational groups in multisensory wine attributes, multisensory experience attributes, and sustainability attitudes. The biggest differences were observed for sustainability attitudes, with respondents holding higher qualifications generally reporting more positive evaluations. No significant differences were found for visitor satisfaction, suggesting that satisfaction levels remain consistent across educational groups. Overall, the findings provide partial support for the proposed hypothesis. Gender emerged as the most consistent differentiating factor, with significant differences across all 4 dimensions analyzed. Educational background influenced perceptions of multisensory wine attributes, multisensory experience attributes, and sustainability attitudes, but not visitor satisfaction. In contrast, residential environment showed only a limited influence, affecting perceptions of multisensory wine attributes only. In the end, it is also important to say that the findings demonstrated that visitors do not perceive multisensory wine tourism experiences in the same way. Gender emerged as the most influential factor. Interestingly, this finding contrasts with previous research that often associates women with greater sensory sensitivity and stronger pro-environmental attitudes. In terms of educational background, the educational background also influenced perceptions, particularly regarding multisensory experiences and sustainability. By contrast, residential environments showed only limited effects, suggesting that individual characteristics may play a more important role than place of residence. It is also important to say that the findings show that multisensory wine tourism experiences are not perceived uniformly, but are shaped by cognitive, experiential, and sociodemographic factors. These results highlight the need for more differentiated and inclusive wine tourism experiences that reflect visitor diversity and enhance engagement, satisfaction, and loyalty. In the end, this study examined whether sociodemographic characteristics influence visitors' perceptions of multisensory wine tourism experiences in Portugal. The results show that perceptions of wine tourism experiences are not uniform across visitors. Gender emerged as the most influential factor, while educational background also shaped perceptions of multisensory experiences and sustainability attitudes. Residential environment showed only a limited influence. These findings highlight the importance of visitor heterogeneity and demonstrate that multisensory experiences are interpreted differently across visitor groups. Future research should examine additional variables, including wine knowledge and travel motivations. Cross-regional and international comparisons could further enhance understanding of multisensory wine tourism experiences. The following slides present the main references that inform this study presentation. Before I finish, I would like to acknowledge the support provided by the Portuguese Foundation for Science and Technology through the projects listed on this slide. This study reminds us that there is no single wine tourism experience. Visitors interpret and evaluate experiences differently according to their characteristics and perspectives. In summary, our findings suggest that understanding visitor diversity is essential for designing more engaging, inclusive, and effective wine tourism experiences. As wine tourism becomes increasingly experience-driven, recognizing and responding to this diversity will be fundamental to creating meaningful and more memorable experiences for visitors. Thank you very much for your attention.